Hello everyone, it's David again. We're on Babylon 5, Season 5, Episode 5, Learning Curve. We're starting off with lessons in meditation. Sektorval and Sekdurhan leave with some students to go see Delenn at Babylon 5. We zip on in, and a man named Trace has a debtor murdered as a warning to not miss payments, and that there's a new dude in town and he's taken charge. We cue the entrance. Yes, you'll know Sektorval of the Rangers was also Emperor Turhan of the Centauri Empire, the one who was right before Cartagia. Same dude. Michael Garibaldi and Lockley engage in a heated argument over breakfast over which side she was on during the Civil War. She said basically, I was on the side that decided, basically duty and honor before everything else, and we don't make the rules, we just live by them. Do you buy that argument, by the way? I guess, what do you do if an illegal order comes through? If it's right there up in your face, but what happens when you've got someone who's giving illegal orders, one of them just doesn't happen to land on your desk? Do you get an automatic pass then? You say, I didn't know what the Nazis were doing, with the Jews in them concentration camps. I thought it was just a light work detail. Excuses the rest of the Wehrmacht and the Luftwaffe and all the other agencies. Just the Gestapo was responsible and nobody else. I mean, yeah, I was only following orders has been an excuse for many a catastrophe. We zip on in, and Trace wants Zach Allen taken out tonight. And we're saying, why isn't Nagrath? What is Nagrath doing? Well, Nagrath went down, okay, according to one of them. They probably got tired of paying the costuming fees for Nagrath, so they zipped it on to a human. We learned that Ranger membership has been opened to all the other races. However, they can't find a use for the Pakmara. They're lazy, they're carrion eaters, nobody wants to be around them, and Delenn hits upon the idea, why not use them as couriers? Nobody harasses them, people do their best to ignore them, so why not, in stuff that's too sensitive to be entrusted over an open or even a closed, means of communication, why not send these guys to do it? Aha! There we go. We also learned that Lanier is trying too hard in training, that he's trying to impress someone, and of course Delenn dances around the issue. She knows what's going on. They kind of have a feeling as to what's going on, but they don't want to approach her directly about it. One of the Ranger trainees tries to save a woman who's being accosted by Trace, but is instead beaten down by Trace. And he winds up in Medlab, where he's made just well enough to stand, and Trace and his men are actually taken out by the other Rangers, leaving Trace and the Ranger that he assaulted there to fight it out, to duke it out till the end. Trace is given a denbok, which is a fighting stick, Minbari fighting stick, and basically the trainee, beats down Trace quite severely. And they kind of do a psychoanalysis of this guy as the trainees beating the snot out of him. It's quite classic. It reminds me a lot, when they talk about Trace not, being alone and forgotten and not loved by anybody because he's a criminal. Reminds me of a guy named Jay that I went to high school with, and this guy used to torment the living hell out of me. You're a faggot, this was before I was out, and of course in the 80s you didn't talk about things like this. You can't sing, nobody likes you. We were in choir class together, and it was just an incessant string of abuse from this guy. You know, your clothes are poor. Where'd you get it from? Walmart? And of course, our comment back then, that's not true now, but back then was there are no Walmarts in Alaska. But at any rate, one day my attitude towards him softened a lot when one day his sister came into my English class. I'm like, what the hell is she doing here? She's a senior. And what happened was her brother, my erstwhile enemy Jay, had ticked off a group of seniors, just running his mouth constantly. I was not the only one he was picking on. And sure enough, they got so mad that they ended up duct taping him to his locker. Here he was, literally like a crucifix duct taped to the locker, up about 6 inches or so. Must have been quite a group of them to be able to hold him down and, you know, and do that to him. So she had to run into the nearest classroom, happened to be my English class, and ask for a pair of scissors to cut her brother down. And I thought, man, if you are so hated, and these are seniors, he was a sophomore, that people in your own, you know, oh man, and my heart kind of went out to him, and I realized this is a human being who people are not going to remember fondly or well. And in fact, several years later, after I'd left Alaska, I went to nursing school, and one of the students turned around and was like, I know you from somewhere. And sure enough, she and I were in choir class together. And I said, do you remember that guy, Jay? And she goes, oh my God, him. She goes, I hated him so bad. And I said, but he always said he was popular with the girls and all the girls talked to him. And she said, David, the only reason we talked to him was so that he would just shut the hell up and go away. She goes, nobody liked the guy. So, and in fact, when I was going to go to my 30th reunion, which we didn't have due to the pandemic, I asked several of the people about him, and the people all were like, who? Who? Him? Oh yeah, he was kind of a jerk. Thank God I didn't have very many classes with him. Even 30 years later, nobody remembers him. You know, good, bad, or indifferent. And I was remembered to the point where I was actually invited to be on the reunion committee, even though I haven't lived in Anchorage in over 30 years. People still wanted me there, you know, partly because I had saved a lot of my yearbooks and a lot of my records from back then, so people had easy access to it. But even though I hadn't lived in the city, they still wanted me on their homecoming queen. At any rate, we zip on in, and Sheridan tells Delenn about a relationship with Lockley. He doesn't say exactly what it is, but it's strongly hinted, and we will find out in the next episode that Lockley and Sheridan were in fact husband and wife for a short period of time. At any rate, do you guys know of a bully that has ever tormented you and you later felt a pang of guilt for them? You know, it doesn't excuse their behavior, but you know, like I felt sorry for the guy, because I knew you have to have a pretty empty heart that people deliberately go out of their way to dislike you and hate you, even 30 years later. At any rate, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are over 200 subscribers, so thank you all very much. See you next episode.